call the February 12th. I'd like to call the February 12th Morton Borough regular council meeting to order. We all stand for the pledge of allegiance, please.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mrs. Preston, will you take the roll call?
Yes.
Michelle Miller.
Here.
John Miller.
Here.
Michelle Roberts. Robert McGrath.
Here.
Kelly Hodnett. Present. Joe Boylan.
Here.
Douglas Eager.
Here.
Mayor App.
Present.
Also present is the tax collector Kristen Acquarola, Solicitor Ewald, Police Chief Crispina, Sergeant Rodstein, Engineer Catania, Morton-Rutledge Fire Department, and I think that's it for tonight.
Yeah, I'd like to ask all of council to make sure their microphones are pushed on the on button. And then are there any council comments starting with Mayor App?
Not at this time, thank you.
Mr. Eagar?
Not at this time.
Mr. Miller?
No.
Mr. McGrath?
No, thanks.
Mrs. Roberts?
Nothing at this time.
Mrs. Hognick?
Not at this time.
Mr. Boylan?
Nothing at this time.
Okay. I have a comment that anytime that we have someone speaking at the dais doing the presentation and the people in the audience have a comment, you need to wait till they are done. Put up your hand and then you come up and ask your question. Trying to keep all this very orderly, and if someone is unable to come up to the dais, we do have a microphone that we passed around, but you do need to state your name and your address. We're just trying to keep everything straight and orderly, particularly for taking of the minutes. Mrs. Preston would appreciate that. And so on and so forth. Okay, our first order of business tonight is swearing in our new part-time police officers. So I turn that over to the chief or to the sergeant, whoever's taking care of this.
Mayor.
Mayor Opp will perform the swearing.
Okay. I'm sorry, Mayor.
No problem. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
I don't think I need the mic, you can hear me pretty good. But it's a very proud time when we can bring two new officers on our force. And so we're very happy to do it. And so the first one we'd like to swear in tonight is Sean Douglas. Sean, if you can come up. Chief, did you want to do one at a time or both?
You can do one at a time, that's
Okay.
fine.
And then if I could have Sean's, one person come up to hold the Bible for Sean. And grab the Bible. Right. And then would you like to also pin his badge on Sean? Or would someone else like to do this? Very good. So, Sean, you're going to raise your right hand. And you can hold that Bible. Good. And you'll just repeat it. I, Sean Douglas,
I, Sean Douglas,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support,
that I will support,
obey, and defend
obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of this Commonwealth,
and the Constitution of this Commonwealth,
and that I will discharge
and I will discharge
the duties of my office
the duties of my office
with fidelity.
with fidelity.
Congratulations.
He has experience.
Got it? There you go.
Just to advise everybody, Sean currently works at Sheringham Police as a part-time officer there, and he's come to work with us as well, so I believe he's a welcome addition to the police department.
going to ask Eric to come forward. Eric Perna. Hi, Eric. Congratulations. Thank you. Who do you, were you? No. All right, Eric, so you're just going to repeat it. Okay. I, Eric Perna,
I, Eric Perna,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support,
that I will support,
obey, and defend
obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of this Commonwealth,
and the Constitution of this Commonwealth,
and that I will discharge the duties
and I will discharge the duties
of my office with fidelity.
of my office with fidelity.
Congratulations, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Just a little bit about Eric. He's in the Marine Corps Reserve. He's still active with that, and he also works in Melbourne Borough, Delaware County as an officer too.
Hoorah. Good job. Thank you. Hoorah.
Well, sir, thank you.
I did miss, asking if there are any public comments on the agenda. So, Mr. Lee has one.
Michael Lee, 123 West Sylvan Avenue, Morton, Pennsylvania. Good evening, everyone. I want to welcome Officers D. Douglas and Perna to the Morton Police Department. I'm sure you will find it a rewarding career. Like most people, I wish we lived in a world where we didn't need the police. Unfortunately, a wish like that is something that never has been and never will be. I hope all the residents will cooperate with the officers and show them respect, because after all, we need them as much as they need us. And I hope, and I just wanted to conclude with something a retired officer told me about 20 years ago. This is something that whenever he would go and talk, law and order to the students in classrooms, he always told them this, that he had a weapon more powerful than his firearm. It's his pen, because with his pen, he can give someone a record that will follow him or her for the rest of their lives. I've never forgotten that. So I want to thank you all for listening, and again, I welcome Officers Douglas and Perna to the force.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. And I'd like to call up Terry Mira from our local AMVETS, the host with the most on Memorial Day.
Good evening. Good evening. I'm from Morton myself. I live right here on Fair Hill Road. I have with me our past state commander, Jeff Elliott. We have been over here in the AMVETS for 75 years, and it's amazing how we're not as close as we should be to the borough. I know we participate in the marathon, we participate in the parades when we have them, but we should be more closer. We have banquets and we have parties going on all the time. In fact, I think where are the flyers? Get them out here. Yeah, we have a chili kickoff going off this coming Sunday. Not this Sunday, following Sunday. We'd like to see some of our members from the council show up. Here, Jeff, will you pass out a couple of flyers, please? And also, we came here purposely for one thing. That's the second thing, is we have flags here. 3x5 American flags that we want to give to the fire department and the police department. Now, will the fire department please come up and receive his flag? Jack.
I'm sorry.
I'm glad you're paying attention, Jack. This is an American flag that we were requested to give you and the police department. Thank you, thank you, Jack. Thanks for all your service, too. You do a hell of a job.
We try.
Thank you. The police department, we run outside and you have to have a copy.
The mayor.
If you're not available,
Hold
if you're
it,
not available,
hold it. Here's the mayor. Mayor.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you, sir.
And also, we have, we have been the AMVETs a long time, and I started sending packages to our troops when Mr. Ball, who lives right up here on Morton Avenue, was in the service back in 2002, I think it was. And we've been sending them out now for 20-some years. And we had a big membership at the time, but we are slowly losing them. As you know, they're a lot of them are passing on. And we have a campaign on, we're trying to get money, because it costs, we send out about 150 boxes a year. And it costs us $20-some a box. So it runs us over $3,000. And we have an article that we put in a paper. And will you pass one of these out to all the council members, please? And somebody else. And we're asking. I'm glad he came along.
You're earning it tonight.
And we're asking for a donation of some kind, because it costs us, like I say, almost $4,000 a year to send all these packages. And 1 month in December, I help another friend of mine who sends packages to our troops. We packaged 400 and some boxes to send our troops. They all went over there by Christmas time. And that bill for sending all those boxes was about $6,000. He picks that up, and I'm just saying, we really try hard to remember our veterans. A lot of people seem to forget them all. We try, it's really tough. But anyway, I thank you very much, Mrs. President, Madam President and Council, and Charles.
We're always willing to list any activities you're doing. You let us know, and I'll make sure that we also put up about your care packages again. We've had it up in the past, but I'll see that it's put up on all that's on all our social media.
Thanks very much, and I haven't been to a council meeting in years. I used to be the building inspector here for. Oh, look, I didn't know you were here. I'm sorry. There's another one of our members, Jim Picacci, also from our council. I didn't see you there, Pete. I was looking for you. Yeah, okay. But anyway, we try and work with the community, and we try hard. And I know you try hard, and it looks nice. Everything looks really great. Great here.
Thank you.
Glad we have a new council, almost a new council. President. Anyway.
Well, there's a lot of changes going on in the building and all too. You'll see some changes in the next year or so.
And our mayor is a member of our post.
Yeah.
So we'd like to have more members. Okay? Thanks very much.
Thank you for coming.
I didn't know you were here. Sorry.
Okay, council, we have, next thing on the agenda is approval of our meeting minutes for the meeting of our meetings in January of this year. Is there anyone who wants to have any comment on those meetings, any corrections or additions? And if not, could there be a motion to approve the said minutes?
So moved.
Second? Is there a second? Okay. We'll do a voice vote. All in favor of approval of the meeting minutes for January 2020, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes. Then we have approval of the monthly bills. Hopefully you've had a chance to look over the monthly bills.
I move to approve
Does
January bill.
anybody have any questions on the monthly bills? Any of you new folks? If there's anything? I hear no questions, so do I have a motion to approve the monthly bills as presented to us for January of 2020.
I move to approve January's bill.
We have a second?
I second.
Mrs. Preston, may we have a roll call, please?
Michelle Miller,
Yes.
John Miller,
Yes.
Michelle Roberts,
Yes.
Robert McGrath,
Yes.
Eileen Hodnett,
Yes.
Joseph Boylan,
Yes.
Douglas Eager.
Yes.
That was passed with unanimously. Go on to our committee reports. Public Building and Infrastructure. Mr. McGrath, do you want to read, if you have that in front of you? I haven't had a chance to find it yet.
Oh, I have it.
I can't find it. I have a copy of it.
Okay, building permits 16, use and occupancy certificates issued 3, contractor's license 3. Okay, now what we need to do is, we have the bids for the improvements here for the area around here, the Smedley tract.
It's the community block development grant for the community center.
Right.
And Mr. Catania, do you have
Excuse me.
something to explain about that?
This is not the community center, this is the area around the area, right? Yes.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Right.
Yes.
That's what I was,
Recreation improvements.
yes, okay. All right, so anyway, Mr. Catania, could you let us know, you made a recommendation for this, could you let us know, you could give us your recommendation?
Sure. We opened bids for the recreation improvements as part of the community development block grant. This grant is to upgrade the T-ball field, the tot lot, and then to create a trail or pathway, whatever, however you want to describe it, through Sycamore Woods. We received 3 bids. The low bidder was Albert G. Cipollone Jr. and Sons Incorporated in the amount of $104,500. The high bid was about $150,000. And we're going to recommend the award to A.G. Cipollone Jr. and Sons Incorporated in a low bid amount. That was, we had sent that also to the county, so the county funded project, and they concurred with that recommendation.
Thank you. So, the recommendation was for the lower of the 3, right?
Yes.
For Cipollone.
And,
Mr. Catania, you did speak with Cipollone's organization, and you were satisfied with their answers?
That is correct.
so, we're going to vote for approval of this, so I'll just put this, this first bid out, the $104,500 for Albert G. Cipollone. I move that we approve this, this bid.
I second it. Does anybody on council have any further questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mrs. Preston?
Michelle Miller,
Yes.
John Miller,
Yes.
Michelle Roberts,
Yes.
Robert McGrath,
Yes.
Eileen Hodnett,
Yes.
Joseph Boylan,
Yes.
Douglas Eager.
Yes.
Thank you. We've passed that. The motion to award the bid for the CDBG grant for 2019. This is a great thing. It is technically under budget. We'll figure that out. If that means we have any extra money to spend on top of what we asked for or not. Different things come up when you're doing these grants. Certain things happen and so on and so forth. So hopefully we'll be able to use all the money and not have to return any to the county because we didn't use it. But that's really good that we did that and that we were awarded the grant anyway. And then, Mr. McGrath, there's one more.
Yes, we're going to, also, we need to apply for the county liquid fuels. The liquid fuels, yes. Is it? for an allocation of $3,375 to be used toward the 2020 roadway street improvement program.
So the application process requires that you do this by resolution. You're looking for a motion to approve resolution number 2020-03 to request liquid fuels tax funds in the amount of $3,375 to be used towards the 2020 roadway street improvement program.
Is this amount any different than up or down from anything we usually get? No, it's usually about the
This
same.
is just the county aid portion of the liquid fuels. We get our own portion yearly, and that's based on the roadway and how much money the state has, but this is passed through the county.
Okay. Does anyone else on council have any questions?
Okay, I move to approve.
D.
D. Next word, no.
Application?
Resolution 2020-03.
A resolution 2020-03 for a request from the county for $3,375 for county liquid fuel tax funds.
Is there a second?
And second the motion.
Okay, roll call vote?
Michelle Miller,
Yes.
John Miller,
Yes.
Michelle Roberts,
Yes.
Robert McGrath,
Yes.
Kylie Hodden,
Yes.
Joseph Boylan,
Yes.
Douglas Eager.
Yes.
Thank you. That passed with everyone's vote, which is a normal thing to happen with that particular resolution. Is there anything else, Mr. Catania, we need to bring up about public facilities? Anything to do with the other grant for the building or anything at this point?
Only that we received the contract for the gymnasium HVAC project. We received the contracts back from 3 of the 4 contractors. We need to follow with the general contractor to get his back, but they're here with Mr. Poole for signature by the borough officials. And then once we get those, we'll schedule a pre-construction meeting. That's another county grant. We'll schedule a pre-construction meeting. We'll have a better idea when that project's set to start.
Okay, thank you.
So that's it for our committee.
All right, we'll go on to Finance and Administration, and what I'd like to do before we start that, Mr. Boylan, is if Kristen would like to come up and introduce herself, our new tax collector. And
Good evening, Kristen Acarola.
Good evening.
My address, 232 Hawthorne Road. I know most of you, but I just wanted to take the opportunity this evening to come by, introduce myself, and introduce myself to whatever residents are here this evening. The bills did go out last week, the borough bills. I have had many phone calls, so please, I'm readily available for anybody. Email, phone, text, anyone can attest to it. So just feel free to call me anytime or email.
What kind of calls are you getting?
Introductions, I'm getting calls, people who have had interim bills, that there was no information on the interim bills. So there has been an issue that has come up. I don't know if it's a glitch with the county. I have a phone call in with them that the description of some of the properties have been changed that don't fit the deed. I did read today, get a contact that I will have to contact tomorrow and have that fixed. So far, I've had only one resident call about that, but that's so far those are the only 2 issues. The first issue with the addresses were the interim bills, because I guess they went out when we were without somebody, I guess in January. There was no address. The phone number that was on there is now not connected. The email that's on there is now, they say, is not existent. So they now have my information now that it's posted, and as of February I was sworn in. So I don't have, obviously, I don't have a January bill because I was not a tax collector at that point, so I have nothing to offer in that respect. And there are payments that have started to come in.
does anyone else on council have any questions for Kristen? Or anyone in the audience? Stand and say, yeah, please.
Over here?
Yeah.
The same mic? Okay.
Yes.
Good evening, Jacqueline Guy, 635 Country Lane. So I haven't received mine yet, so should we just wait a little longer until they
No,
show?
you should have received it. You can, if you want,
Yeah.
I'll wait and we can
Okay.
discuss, and I'll take down your information and
Yeah,
I'll pull
thank
it
you.
again and make sure that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know, actually today I just got a whole stack that just came back to me, so
Oh,
I
okay.
don't know, maybe it got mixed up in there.
All right.
Who knows, but I will get your information and be happy to
Great.
follow
All
up.
right, thank you.
Anyone else with any questions for our new tax collector? No?
Can I just make one comment?
Yes, please, go ahead, Mr. Poole.
Anyone who's familiar with the situation knows that we were having a problem finding someone. Kristen eventually was the one that stepped up, and just to let everybody know, within, what, a 2-week period, we basically took care of everything from A to Z, which the Z being getting the bills out almost on time. I mean, literally almost on time.
I think it was like 4 days late.
That's what you say, but we'll take it, right? I mean, so I just wanted to congratulate her, first of all, on being appointed the tax collector, but also just stepping up, and we've been working together trying to get everything in place, and I think we finally did, because as of today, the bond is official.
Waiting for one last thing, but
So that was
other than
it.
that, yeah.
Yep.
I knew you could do it.
Oh,
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Boylan, now the floor is yours.
So we're going to read out January collections, tax collections, starting with sewer. By the way, since this is January, the monthly figure and the year-to-date figure are going to be exactly the same, so I'm just going to read the figure one time. Current period sewer collections, $71.13. Sewer collections in January for prior years, $8,450.24, and delinquent sewer fees collected, $1,845.09. Rubbish fees, none collected for the current period in January. Prior years, $1,291.05. Delinquent trash fees collected, $2,016.47. Real estate taxes for January, $1,022.86. Those are all delinquent collected by the county. And that is all I have. We're just reading the highlights, right? For the record.
Yeah, actually, we may not read them anymore after this.
I'll just tell people that we collected
Well,
money.
because we have a list of them. Mrs. Guy?
Yes.
Please, we're trying to keep this in a certain...
Should we have already received those bills for the trash or the sewer for this year yet? You're talking about from last year?
Yes, these
Oh,
are, yes, that's
thank
correct.
Those come out from the office. Mrs. Preston, when would those be coming out?
We're waiting for Republic Bank to get the lockbox situation fixed, and then hopefully this week or beginning of next week.
If you remember, last year we switched banks.
Yes.
And what we did is this year is the first year we're using Republic Bank. And in fact, the tax bills are all going through Republic Bank lockbox also. So that was the first test for the refuse and the sewer bills. They're trying to fine tune it between our billing contractor and Republic Bank, and they should go out hopefully the end of this week, the latest probably beginning of next week.
Well, so you may look forward to receiving
That's what
your
I said.
bills shortly.
They'll be sure.
Wonderful. So, Mr. Boylan, you're done?
I finished.
All right. Mr. Millerman, we go on to public safety.
Good evening.
Good evening.
First, I'd like to start off and welcome everyone to our meeting. And I'd like to start off with our fire department report. I do have a breakdown, just a general overall 2019 chief's end report. There was a total of 276 alarms last year. Of that 276 alarms, the property damage or endangered was $4.6 million. Actual lost property, $20,000. I congratulate the fire department for a job well done. That's a big savings of property and life. We lost one office captain, Michael Malinowski. They assisted other departments numerous times, and I think that's one thing that's great, even with our volunteer department, is that they assist as much as they do firefighting in the borough, and so I congratulate you on that. For the month of January, they had 3 medical assists. They assisted 10 assists to other companies. They had 6 assists to Baltimore, 3 assists to Springfield, and 1 to Brookhaven. The company had 2 details for 9 hours of work, and the company staffed 3 duty engine assignments for 12 hours for a total of 60 personnel hours. Mr. President, I commend you on your department and what they do. And just hope that you keep up the good work.
Thank you.
We need you. For the police department, just an overall, this is the month of January. There was 10 suspicious persons and autos and circumstances around that. There were 19 medical emergencies. There was 13 traffic enforcement warnings, 14 assists to other agencies, other police departments, and 11 traffic citations. All told, there was 189 traffic citations for the month of January. And once again, with the police officers, what they do, with the schedules that they run, Officer Rothstein and Chief Lespin, I congratulate you and what you do and how you maneuver and you work that puzzle. It really is something to behold, and to keep everyone in the community safe and they really don't have to worry. Because I see you on the job all the time, and it gives everybody assurance. Thank you for your work and your due diligence.
Thank you for your
Is
time.
there anything that you'd like to say?
Yeah, a few things. Just want to let council know that one of our officers went to active shooter school. It's a 2-day school. It's free. It's presented by the FBI. We have a facility in Brookhaven. It's a Catholic school that's enclosed, and we're running the schools through there, through the Police Chiefs Association. And my goal is to get the whole department certified. We have around 8 officers. It's tough around some of these part-time schedules, but we're working on our goals to be 100% active shooter trained. Also, we had an officer go to acting in rank school, and we had Officer Leah Sesnick resign from the department. She accepted a full-time job in the Yaden Police Department. And then also, everybody, I don't know if anybody in council saw, we got our speed trailer out and running a little bit, and we're going to be deploying that in several locations.
I was going to comment on that. I did notice that.
Thank you. That's all I have.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
If I can interject, I do have a question, and I want to ask Chief Lespina. I have been approached by residents on Broad Street in regards to a drone that has been flying in the area. It's been out there, noticed on Friday and Saturday evenings, just hovering.
What 100 block would that be?
I would say it was on the 103. It's just to pass the Thompsons, the Paynes, and Alice, the tax collector, hovers right in that area.
Okay. have the officers investigate that.
Okay.
I heard about that also from the neighbors.
Right, well, we can speak later and get more information. Thank you.
That's all I have. Hold on. Fire department.
Yeah, just want to update you.
Please. Thank you, Jack.
No problem. Just want to update everybody. We've been getting a lot of flow from the insurance companies. They've actually been presenting dollar amounts to the family, which is a very good sign that Captain Malinowski's death may turn into a line of duty death, be official, which opens the door for the family to receive much greater benefits from the state and from the federal government. So hopefully, we're hoping within the next 2 weeks to have it finalized, or have final word from them, from the Workers' Comp Board and the insurance companies, that this will be a line of duty death. So just want to keep you updated on it, and we will keep you notified as it proceeds along. But we just wanted to make sure, we get the word out to you. So, but it's looking very good. Again, it's an insurance company, so don't take anything until you actually get it right.
Insurance company or the government, right?
Yeah. So, but again, it's looking well, and hopefully we will get this through as a line of duty death. So, all right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep,
And
thank
just
you.
as a side comment to that, our insurance broker has been doing a lot to try and get that to come to fruition, so. And I know he was reaching out yesterday, so that's why we were hoping it was good, because we've not been involved, which is, normal, but that's why we were hoping it was good.
Actually, the insurance company reached out to the chief, along with somebody else, and I can't remember, but it's the two parties that are working together to try and get this into an approved status so that we can claim it as a line of duty death. So he's supposed to be meeting with them sometime this week, and they said they should have the final determination done by end of next week. So it's looking good, especially when they start presenting dollar amounts to the family. Nothing official, but again, once we get that letter that says this is approved, then it's off to the races with the state and the federal government, and it's a whole new round of people that we have to start dealing with to get all that financial.
Yeah, your paperwork's only beginning because
Oh,
of
yes.
the children involved and everything.
Yeah, so, but just want to keep you abreast of it, where we're standing with it and all that stuff. All right?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so we're done with public safety?
Yes, I'm done.
And this is Robert, Public Health, Sanitation, and Recycling.
Yes, good evening. Okay, I'd like to make my report for January in regards to the trash pickups. With Republic, there were 7 pickups, and the tonnage was 69.36. For the recycling pickups with B&L Disposal, there were 5 pickups, and the tonnage was 17.77. Also, last week I did inform you that I did reach out to the supplier for the lids for the recycling containers, and we did place an order just today that we have 20 lids, and they will go at a rate of $5. And to the first 20 people, I believe we have some residents that have already put their names in, but there's 20 lids, so those that want your lids, please contact the borough office, and we'll also post it on our social media. So if we do well with that and we exceed the 20 and people want more, we'll do another box, because they come in 20 in a box. Also, I did propose to the committee members that we would be meeting in regards to reviewing our contracts so that we prepare for a bidding session. And I did reach out to Mr. Miller and Mr. McGrath and Mr. Florentino just to try to get together to meet. And so far, I've only had the one response. So I would like to...
I'll give you my response right now.
Okay.
Can we do the 18th or the 19th?
Okay, Mr. Miller, are you okay with?
I thought I responded.
No.
You were sick for
Mhm.
remember?
Yeah, I was.
Okay, so he just recommended the 18th or the 19th. And what I'll do is I'll reach out to you again by email, and I just like for you to respond so that we can go forward with this meeting. Because we need to review it so that we can prepare it to give it back to the administrator along with our solicitor to review our bid so that when we go out to process it, we have all the things that we want in it to be acceptable. So we'll just, like I said, respond to my email confirming the date for the meeting. And I believe that ends my report unless there's a question from anyone in the audience.
What time do you want that meeting?
7 p.m. Standard 7 p.m. meeting.
I want to add that we're also having a rain barrel workshop here through the Stormwater Collaborative on April 7th. That's been put on social media. This is about an hour-long presentation done by the Pennsylvania Resource Council and the Stormwater Collaborative. We do these every couple of years here. You come to the meeting, you learn how you set up a rain barrel and the importance of it and stormwater management, and you get a free rain barrel at the end of it with all the attachments, which is about $100 worth of stuff. If anybody's interested in getting those. So it's 7th at 6:30, not 7, 6:30. If the gym's being worked on, it's going to be held in here. It might be a little crowded, but we'll get through it. The barrels will be here. You'll get them immediately afterward. But you do have to sign up for it because it's going to be first come, first served. There'll be 50 barrels with Morton residents getting the first choice. And, pardon?
Where do we sign?
It's online. It's on Nextdoor. If you have any questions, if anybody has any questions, they can contact me at mmiller@mortonpa.org. But it is on the Nextdoor site, and I don't have it on the borough site yet, but unless Mrs. Lloyd got that up, but I don't know if she did. If she's posted it, but she'll take care of that. But it's very informative, and Jamie, who runs this, she's a lot of fun and so on and so forth. We're actually be meeting with her next week or so about some other possible grants for the borough, and she just lives here in Seacane, and incredibly knowledgeable. Anyway, just if anybody's interested, or if you're not sure you want one, you should still come to the meeting. You'll learn something. And it also talks about rain gardens and the small rain garden you can put in your own yard and so on and so forth.
What organization is that? Who you said sponsored it? The Stormwater?
The Stormwater Collaborative, which is something that the borough belongs to. It's a number of municipalities that live along the Darby Creek. It's Glen Olden, Collingdale, East Lansdowne, Darby Township, I believe it's a couple, Sharon Hill, Haverford Township. No, Radnor's not part of it. Yeah, Upper Darby's a big part of it. And they do a lot of programs. That's how we got the rain gardens out here. They also have given us some free trees. They will assist, give you information if you want to do something on your private property, whether it's a business or a house. They do things with the school districts. It's a not-for-profit organization, and we do pay a membership to it each year. And we've been involved with it now for about, I guess about 7 or 8 years. We meet the third Tuesday of the month at different municipalities. Next month happens to be at Darby, and then in May we're meeting here in Morton, 10 o'clock on that third Tuesday. Anyone's welcome to come. You won't understand some of what's being talked about because they use a lot of acronyms, but you'll learn about it. It's quite a cross-section of people from different municipalities. It's we kind of have fun at these meetings, actually, and it's very informative. So does that sort of answer your question?
Yes, definitely.
Yes. Anyway, I guess that's that for that. Go on to law and ordinance, Mr. Egar.
Yeah, we've been working with the solicitor on a couple amendments that are going to try to move forward. And I will pass it over to the solicitor so he can explain a little bit about it and tell you what's going on.
Sure. So because 2/3 of the Law and Ordinance Committee is new, we decided to divide the zoning ordinance into two parts in order to make it more easy to process as our first ordinance as a new board. The zoning ordinance that's before you tonight is designed to do four things. Number one, it's supposed to correct a typo in the R3 zoning district. For some reason, in the lot requirements section, it says maximum lot width instead of minimum. So, in theory, I guess it may make it nearly impossible to build some houses because of combining the setbacks with the maximum lot width. It would be, you wouldn't have very much space for a house. So the proposal is just to correct that typo, to make it minimum lot width. That's section 27-604. The second item was something that was brought up by your former fire marshal. They had raised the concern that accessory structures should have a setback from primary structures, so it amends section 1504 of your zoning ordinance to require a 10-foot setback between primary structures such as a house and a accessory structure, and it only accepts fences and parking spaces or driveways. The third item relates to non-conforming uses and structures. It relates specifically to what happens when you have two abutting lots which are held in single ownership. And it requires, in those cases, that the lots be treated as if they were one, where they're undeveloped. So if you have an undeveloped lot next to, it happened a lot in the old days where you'd have these tiny little lots, and someone would come in and buy 3 lots in order to have their home developed. This is back, pre-zoning ordinance, and some of those lots are still on the books. So this requires that that when you have those lots that were, 3 lots were combined for one house, then you can't, 100 years later, now divide off these tiny little lots in order to build additional houses on the property. And then the fourth item on the agenda, or on the ordinance, also relates to non-conforming uses and structures. And what it does is it clarifies what conditions create the abandonment of a non-conforming use. So a non-conforming use is a use that existed before an ordinance was enacted to make that use not permitted in the zoning district. So there are these uses out there that are in a zoning district that have been there for a long time, and they're grandfathered to the extent that they continue. Under the law, these uses can be abandoned, and the law has changed a bit since your abandonment section was written. So we tried to create a very clear rundown of what the conditions are, or what would constitute an abandonment. The courts have really held that you have to show that there's a proof of an intent to abandon that use. And that your ordinance can create a presumption that the abandonment has occurred if there's a long period of time, such as a year, where it's not used for the purpose that it used to be, but that the municipality has to examine the evidence, and that they have to weigh the evidence as to whether that was actually abandoned. So we set up a framework in that section of the ordinance to make it clear. I did have the opportunity to talk to the planning department of the county. Because this is a zoning ordinance, it's a little bit more complicated to enact. It first has to be sent to the planning department and your own planning commission for review. Then you have to hold a hearing and advertise it before you can enact it. it has to be advertised twice as opposed to a normal ordinance, which only has to be advertised once. So because there's all the extra effort involved, luckily I was able to talk to the planning department and get their feedback before we send it over to them and incur any expenses. They had 4 suggestions, and so tonight I would be looking for a motion to approve the advertisement and sending the ordinance to the planning commissions for review. But I would like to ask you to authorize me to revise it slightly to incorporate their comments. The first comment is that with regard to the abandonment issue, they wanted us to reference that that in section 104.1 of your zoning ordinance. It's just simply a reference being added. The second issue, actually, I disagree with the planning department on. They had raised some concern about the whether or how the merger doctrine could be applied in a zoning ordinance issue, and the U.S. Supreme Court just ruled on it a couple of years ago. But I would like to maybe revise it slightly to mirror the language used by the U.S. Supreme Court. The third issue is that under the abandonment issue, they asked they recommended that we include examples of the types of activities that could be used to either prove or disprove abandonment. And the courts have looked at several things. For instance, if there's a car dealership that is in a district that no longer allows car dealerships and it closes, the courts have said, well, did it move? Is it now at another location? Did they demolish part of the building that served that specific use? How long has it been in that condition? And so the Planning Commission recommended that we add some examples, and as long as that is a non-exclusive list and it's clearly a non-exclusive list, I'm happy to add that. And the final comment that they had is that they asked if we would consider including a notice provision. Based on the case law, I don't think a notice provision is appropriate, although it may be good practice for the code enforcement officers when they notice a potential abandonment to send a letter to the property owner inquiring about it, but I would not recommend that be included in the ordinance.
I have a question, I'm sorry,
Sure.
Why not? I would think that would be appropriate to make notice.
So, because in clear cases of abandonment, first off, the ordinance itself provides notice, but in clear cases of abandonment, the courts have held that if you create additional barriers, you have to live by them. For instance, it's very common right now for an abandonment ordinance to say if a property is not used for the pre-existing use for a period of 1 year, then it constitutes an abandonment, and the courts have held that that's not enforceable 100%. That it can only create a rebuttable presumption of an abandonment. But they have held the opposite being true, where they say, well, no matter what the evidence is, if you say 1 year constitutes abandonment, then if it's 364 days, it's not. So that could create a situation where, so in this case, I feel if you had a notice requirement of the code department, it could create an indefinite period where a use could be not used for 50 years. It could be it could be a commercial use and it's converted to housing, and then 50 years later the owner could say, well, you have no proof that you provided notice, and the municipalities under the museum commission's regulations only have to maintain records of code actions for, I think it's 7 years. So after 7 years, the municipality would have no way of going, if they disposed of records, no way of going back to prove that they had given notice. So it's a situation where it creates a barrier that I don't think it's wise for you to put on yourselves. Is that clear? Or?
Sort of. Just in terms of, I mean, it sounds like, and just help me through this, if the code enforcement went out and provided the notice of provision, then it locks in a time, and like you said, but we keep those records that it was provided, but you're saying if somebody comes back to rebut it long after we've destroyed records, it creates a gray area.
Well, I mean, it would create a situation where they're entitled to the use, even if they had abandoned it. I think I think it could be good practice, but I wouldn't I wouldn't make a legal requirement of it.
Okay.
So,
is there a way to word that where it's not the requirement but the recommendation? If you know what I'm saying.
I think it would be more appropriately dealt with by a memo, possibly to the code enforcement officers.
Okay.
How do we determine, I'm sorry, are you?
Go ahead. No, that's okay.
How do we determine when to start the 1 year period? Is it when the borough discovers it, even though it might have been ongoing for a number of months prior to that?
No, it would be when the use actually closes, and that could be, it's not always easy to determine the exact date, but if a business is in a district that is not any longer permitted in that business closes, that would be one factor that shows that it's been abandoned. And the courts have gone through a large number of factors, either one way or the other. The moving of the business, the marketing of the business. So if a business closes, but the owner is trying to sell the property, say it's a gas station and it closes, and they're marketing it as a gas station, and they're trying to sell it to a new owner, that shows that the intent is not to abandon the use, but to transfer it to someone else. There's a number of factors such as that, and you can imagine, many more. And it's just a matter of evaluating. I had a case that I worked on once where there was two brothers who owned a business that they had inherited from their father, and they had a feud, and one of them went out and destroyed the property. It was a billboard, and it was a pre-existing non-conforming billboard, and he went out with a chainsaw and cut it down. And the courts held that going out with a chainsaw and cutting down a billboard is proof of your intent to abandon the use of that billboard. And that municipality had a 1-year standard, and so after 1 year, it was determined by the courts that you could no longer reinstitute that use.
Meaning that the billboard was down for a full year, hadn't been rebuilt?
Correct.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Yep. Are you going to permit questions from the audience?
Charles Holycraft, 14 Oaks Road in Morton-Rutledge. On the one, I'm a little confused. 2 abutting lots, owner has 3 lots, and you say they can't build additional structures. Are they separate lots?
If they are separate lots and they're abutting and they're owned in common ownership, and they no longer, and the district doesn't allow lots that small, then yes. It's called the merger of lot doctrine.
Okay, so if the lots are in conformance, I mean, they could build a structure on it if it's a separate lot.
Certainly. So if they met the zoning standards, yes. And if they are already developed and there's a house on each lot already, then that's a pre-existing nonconformity.
Okay.
But if it's an undeveloped lot.
If there's just a large lot for which they would still reverse subdivision to get the lots?
If it's, I guess if the question is if there's like 3 lots that could...
Well, I'm saying if it's one lot that, that has the dimensions to convert it to 3, they would request...
Right, that would just be, by right. That would be a conforming use.
Well, it's one lot, it's 43,560, you want to break it down into 3 lots.
And if the district has a 10,000 square foot...
So, I mean, they would
be allowed.
They would apply for a reverse subdivision for separate lots.
Well, that would be specifically, that would actually be a straight subdivision. If you have one lot, you're trying to divide into 3 lots, if the ordinance allows it, this does not impact that at all.
Right.
This is the opposite. There's some famous cases out in the Poconos where movie theaters were giving away lots, and they'd buy this giant plot of land and have like a contest where they'd give away your own lot in the Poconos, and they'd be giving away like a couple hundred square foot lot, and that's where a lot of the cases came out of, because there's these postage stamp size lots that aren't really usable, but and even here, you've got subdivisions that happened 150 years ago before there was any regulation, and they just walk into the recorder of deeds office and hand over a plot plan, and they'd have an extremely large amount of lots on 1 acre, that's why these houses exist that have multiple lots, because people thought it was ridiculous to have such a small lot.
Okay. Is that going to be in the ordinance that's what you're going to be advertising?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. All right, I'll double check that. Thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions or comments? I'm going to take a stab at making the motion here to word it properly.
So it would just be a motion to authorize the solicitor's office to advertise, or to send the proposed zoning ordinance to the planning commissions and prepare it for advertising for approval at a later meeting. And it would be subject to the authorization to make those provisions discussed.
Because my question about the additional part there is your recommendations are not necessarily the same as the planning commission's.
Correct.
So we want to make sure that was in there, stating that subject to the planning commission comments and our solicitor's comments.
Right, so what I'd be looking to do is reference, I can be very specific, reference the abandonment issues in section 104.1 of your zoning ordinance to provide non-exclusive examples of what factors might indicate an intent to abandon. And those are the 2 items that we would be looking to, I'm sorry, the third is to mirror the language a bit of the Supreme Court in the merger doctrine.
You mentioned that you didn't want, is that part of the notice provision that you're not recommending?
No, that relates to the specific intent to abandon.
Okay, that's part of the abandonment issue.
Correct.
Now, does that motion make sense to council? That motion having been made, is there a second?
Second.
Do we need a roll call vote on this? No, just voice vote? Okay, all in favor of authorizing this motion to advertise?
And to be sent to the planning department and planning commission.
Say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so motion carries. And then we go on, Mr. Egar, there's a next.
Is that the Historic Commission? Yeah, I'm not sure what that is.
Something else that Mr. Egar explained. You weren't on council, it just came up originally.
Yeah, so this goes all the way back to 2015. There was some discussion in 2015 about the creation of historic preservation ordinances. There's a couple of different ways to do it. after evaluating it, because of kind of the non-centralized nature of the historic resources in Morton, it was recommended to do two things. One would be to create a historical commission, which would be like like any other one of your commissions, and it would advise the council and the residents on matters of historical preservation. And then the second would be to create an overlay district, which would recognize historic structures in the borough and grant certain protections to them. And at this point, probably the best avenue is to refer those prior drafts to the Law and Ordinance Committee so that they can review them and present their recommendations to council.
I actually have a list, which I can forward to everyone on council, of historic buildings in Morton, which we came up with a few years ago. Additionally, Mario Cimino is very interested in this and would be willing to chair this commission. So I can forward that to the L&O committee or anyone else that might be interested in seeing the list, or make it available to the public if anybody'd like to see it. So I will send that to the office tomorrow and send it to council. And so, Doug, if you can put that on your list of things to do.
My question would be, what qualifies something to be on that listing?
There's a couple of different ways. Sometimes it's by age. Sometimes it's by historical events. If George Washington lived in a house, or something like that. Now, I don't think he lived here, but there's certainly other people who did, who have historical significance. But and then the third way is when it's of particular relevance to a period. When a building has, maybe nobody famous lived there or nothing famous happened there, but there's a historical period where that building is a very good example of what architecture was and what the borough's makeup was at that time.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Anything else?
That's it for now, but I wanted to mention that Hailey and I attended last Friday and Saturday. We attended the borough boot training kind of camp. That it was a 2-day seminar. It was really informative. Tons of questions from everybody in the audience, and about 95% of the time the answer was ask your solicitor. So I'm speaking for both Hailey and I think we have a new best friend over here. So that's all I have for tonight, Doug.
Can we recommend asking the office first, and then we'll pass it through to the solicitor?
They don't cost as much. Okay, thank you. Okay, Mrs. Hodnick, Community and Economic Development?
Yes. So we have planned our committee meeting for February 26th here at the Borough Hall at 7 p.m. I have invited the 4th of July kind of caucus to come out and join us as well to discuss some of their planning at that meeting, and any other community members who would like to attend would be welcome. The other thing I'd like to discuss in terms of community and economic development is the importance of the 2020 census. As we talk about our community block grants and our funding here, just recognizing that getting a clear account of all of the members of this community is essential to continue to get funding and information. The census is changing a bit, and the expectation at this point is that as opposed to what people remember with the people going door to door, that will only be about 5% of the responses. 95% are expected to be the responses from mail, phone, and online. And at this point, it's expected that all of the mailings will be sent out by April 1st. So start to look for those and start to respond. As I said, you can respond either by mail, phone, or online. The remaining 5% are the people who don't respond, and those will be the people who will have the door-to-door visits. Also, the census is still hiring.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions?
I got something to that.
Go ahead.
I happened to read in the Inquirer today that a political party has sent out questionnaires that look like the census.
In Montgomery County.
Montgomery County.
One of them.
Yeah, so watch out. Because you may have actually thought you filled out the census, and you didn't because it was this particular thing. So you're saying around April they're coming out.
Actually, by April 1st is when they expect them all to be sent.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, on to Parks and Recs, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam President. First, I want to say the sentence, and it's full, the Great Leap Day Cake Contest and Sale. So this is the last time I get to advertise it here at the meeting. So the end of the month, on the extra day, the 29th of February, we're going to be having the contest and sale. And we have a sign being held up in the back of the room there that the ladies just drew up. Yes. So it should be a lot of fun. Some people have already called to say they'll participate and be baking some cakes, and they can sell their cakes too. So if you know anyone who would like to bake a cake, tell them to join in. So it should be a good event, our first try at this, the Leap Day Cake Contest and Sale. So that's going to be on Saturday, February 29th at 11 o'clock here at Borough Hall.
And cookies and other such items are welcome too, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Yum, yum.
The next thing I want to discuss is the third annual 5K run here in Morton. So we just started the planning, so it's a 4-month process to plan this day. And so Run the Day is going to be doing our timing of the event and also registration once again. And last year we had 123 runners. We're hoping to get close to 200 this year as we continue to grow this race. So I'll be to approach all the businesses around town to ask for donations to help us pay for the race and to raise some money for Parks and Recreation. The other thing I wanted to bring up tonight was the corrective measures we wanted to start at Jacobs Park on the ball field there. And Mr. Catania suggested that we start early with this in hopes that we could get a contractor offer us a lower price at the off-season rate. And so Mr. Catania has sort of an outline of what we would want to do, and we would like to maybe get 3 bids on this in the upcoming weeks. So Mr. Catania, would you like to comment on that?
Thank you. The only, I guess, 2 things I want to mention is, the first part we would be asking was Borough Council to authorize us to solicit 3 written proposals for the work. And we went and looked at the field, and obviously it's a little rough for anybody playing on. So we have a local contractor that we've used on some of the athletic fields that we have played on, and he has a program that he has set aside for the kind of field that we use, and he actually, after he's done the work, it actually has done a major improvement to it. So I'm going to recommend that what we do is we seek proposals to get a roller out and level the field off first, aerate it, top dress it with some organic material, and then seed it and fertilize it. And the cost that we had for the other field it ranged about a couple $1,000s for that. We'll see what bids we get. If we get it early enough, I think we can get the contractor before they're starting their grass cutting and the other normal landscaping projects that they would do. So that's in a nutshell.
Thank you, Mr. Catania. Does anyone have any questions on that?
Well, first of all, I know that you haven't discussed this, I don't think, at a Parks and Recs meeting, not to say that it may have been brought up, I mean, maybe the details, just that the procedure is generally that the committee discusses it, but would you, excuse me, would you say that it was discussed?
It was discussed at our last meeting,
okay.
And also in the budget process, we discussed it and we chose that as one of the two things that we were going to target this year with our Parks and Recreation budget.
Okay.
The other thing was the parking at Jacobs Park. So those were the two projects that we had pinpointed for this year.
Mr. Catania, you're referring to the for use that the use you were referring to is a soccer field. Is your experience? Or?
We play out soccer
Yeah,
field at our club.
But
yeah.
that'd be the same no matter what sport it was,
Correct.
pretty much. My only concern about taking that on is that we do have the all this other work being done with the grants. Hopefully, we're not biting off more than we can chew at one point, because that would be 4 different things going on at the same time, and one across town, as it were. But we have somebody with experience, I suppose, a landscaper who's familiar with doing, as Mr. Catania said, that perhaps that isn't too much to take on top of the rest of this, but I just don't want us to get spread too thin, because this comes up to a key number of people, a few people, 3 of which are sitting up here to supervise a lot of this, and with whatever else is going on. So I understand what you're saying about getting authorization for it and then see what happens. And just we're going to have a lot of things hit at once, because we might have the air conditioning with the building going on too.
Well, I believe that we can handle it appropriately, and I trust the engineer to get the proper people to do the job for us. And it's not like that we have to do the job. We're hiring people to do the work. I think we can do it here in Morton. So I would ask that we try to proceed with this.
Well, I'm not saying not proceed with it. I'm just saying that it's going to take, there's a lot of time involved and concerned about us spreading ourselves too thin with other things going on, but it needs to be done. So with that said, were you making a motion or anything, or you wanted to bring it up?
You can't make a motion.
I can't make the motion as mayor, yes, but
Yeah.
I would like council to give us approval to put out bids.
Can I just say something here? All right, so you say there's going to be a meeting on the 2nd of March, right?
Yes, that's correct.
So that's before the next, that's before the agenda meeting.
Right.
So if we have a meeting then and get our ducks in order for the agenda meeting, and then make recommendations at that meeting, then that'll give us the amount of time to approve going forward. I think it's still March,
Yeah.
so that's probably still early enough to do this, right? So I think that if we head forward, come up with a bit, because you're right, it's in the budget already. We already budgeted, so we can go forward with it, but we want to come up, we want to basically present the plan and recommendation to council at the next meeting, I guess, because we're having the meeting, the Parks and Rec meeting on the 2nd.
Charles?
Our intent would be, if authorized tonight, to have the proposals back before that committee meeting so they could be reviewed at that meeting, and then make a recommendation to council for consideration at their.
Okay, so to move the thing forward, I guess I'll make a motion to, what am I doing?
I think the request is to authorize the engineer to solicit written bids on the project. It's at Jacobs Park for
renovations.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Anybody on council have questions about that? No? Okay. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Mr. Catania, it's up to you now.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, council. I think that's something we can handle and will get done for the community. And also, we did mention that our next meeting is going to be March 2nd, Monday, at 7 o'clock right here at Borough Hall. So the community is welcome to that. And that's all I have on Parks and Recreation for tonight.
Thank you. Do we have anything on planning? This is Preston.
No, we don't.
Zoning?
No.
Is there any old business before council?
Just one thing, tentatively, the Civil Service Commission's planning to meet next Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. here to discuss the revisions or proposed revisions to the rules for the civil service.
What was that date?
Tuesday,
Maybe 18th.
the 18th. And we'll get that advertised in the next day or two.
Is the public welcome to that?
Correct, yes.
What time is that?
6:30 Tuesday, the 18th.
Tuesday.
Any new business per council? Mrs. Guy.
Jacqueline Guy, 635 Country Lane. I am your elected school board director, and I just wanted to bring something to the borough to let you know. We will be having tomorrow night at 6:15 at the district building, the district offices of 111 Leamy, there will be an education committee meeting. This committee meeting is open to the public, whether you have children in the district, whether if you live in the district, and you could go to the meeting. At this particular meeting, we will be discussing several different things. We're going to be talking about SAT implementation for 8th grade to 9th grade students, the PSATs, I'm sorry. We will also be discussing, one of the big things we're going to be discussing is we're going to be working on the summer literacy camps, both at the SLC and here in Morton. So this committee is a great committee to be able to go to actually see what, have input into what your children are learning, into the direction that the school is going as far as their education. So I would encourage any member that wants to come. It's going to be at 6:15 tomorrow evening at the district office, which is connected to the high school, and it will be in the boardroom. So we already have people that come from the community. We have a lot of great input. So I would love to see people there, and I'm just extending that invitation out to anyone.
Is that something that is in such detail that for the Morton program that we should be there?
I think, well, we're going to be talking about that. We're going to be working on that. That's one of the agenda. That's one of the parts of the agenda that night. We're also going to be talking about a lot of other things. We're going to be researching, reading, and facilitating a discussion.
But specifically, I'm just talking about our summer program.
Yeah, that's one of the discussions in there, yes. So we're going to have some curriculum information. There's going to be a lot of stuff. But one of those things is going to be about the programs for the summer literacy. Okay.
But we should anticipate we're going to have some separate meeting for the borough.
I'm not exactly sure. Well, I'm not exactly sure. I don't want to say I'm assuming.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where it stands right now because I am new on the board.
Right.
So I'm not sure of all the
Well, if I don't have to attend it, I don't want to go out tomorrow.
Well, I just wanted to let people know because if you're interested in your child's, what's going on, the curriculums that they're reading and the testing that they're having, and this is open to the public. So this is where your input can be given, and that's an important thing. So I just wanted to make that available to everyone, to the board, and to let you know that 6:15 tomorrow evening will be the committee, education committee meeting. And I'm on the education committee, so I'll be there as well. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any questions, or?
Anyone have any questions?
I have a comment. Thank you very much, Jackie. I wanted to comment, last week I was invited to witness the round table discussion that Governor Wolf had at Springfield High School. And so this is a good way to talk a little bit about that. I wanted to bring back something to share with everyone. So Governor Wolf's scholarship proposal is a proposal to lower the cost to lower class and middle class students for higher education in our state's 14 universities. The amount of money that he proposes to put into this is $204 million. And it's going to be called the Nellie Bly Scholarship. Nellie Bly was born in 1864. She started college, but had to drop out of college because she couldn't afford it. But she did become a journalist, and she is known for her work in mental health. And so the governor wanted to name this after Nellie Bly. So what this scholarship will do will sort of close the gap between the Pell program and other grants that are offered, making less debt for our students, lower income students and middle class students. There are some incentives in this program. In order to be eligible for the program, the student must be a full-time student in an undergraduate program. And the student must also qualify for a federal subsidized student loan. And the student must commit to live in Pennsylvania after graduation for a number of years, which will be equal to what they received the scholarship for. So it could be up to 6 years. If a student leaves the state before they get back their 6 years, they will have to repay their loan. Okay. The money for this is going to be funded by by repurposing revenues from the Horse Racing Development Fund. Okay, so this is all part of Governor Wolf's efforts to strengthen education. Recently, he has done some good work for apprenticeships for those who do not go to college, and also some work for just hands-on training for people who don't go to college also. But this is just to strengthen our workforce and for those who didn't go to college. So this will be an advantage for some of the students here. Josh, you'd probably be interested in bringing back some of the information. Student loan debt is, in Pennsylvania, is among the highest in the country. $68 billion of debt, student loan debt. And that's an average of about $37,000 per student. But anyway, I wanted to come back and say that I did appreciate meeting the governor there and other officials. He had a roundtable discussion with students from Springfield, the students' parents, and school officials. So it was very enlightening, and I was happy to represent Morton there. And thanks for giving me time to give back to you.
Thank you.
Did you get a picture with the governor?
I got several pictures.
Good for you.
To piggyback off of Mayor, one of the things that Governor Wolf is also proposing in his new budget will be to align charter school and cyber charter school funding, so that right now the formula was made in '96, and so we have cyber charter schools that are getting as much as $17,000 per student, which is based on what we would pay per student in a brick and mortar school. So they're going to align that to bring that down more, which would hopefully reduce the tax burden on as far as school tax. And I say hopefully because we all know Nexus never come down. But that is one of the things he's doing, as well as finding more money specifically to go to public schools. And we, at the high school, we do have programs there for apprenticeships, for 2-year apprenticeships. So kids that, not everybody's a 4-year college kid. So we have an academy, which is 11th and 12th grade. If you want to be a carpenter, if you want to be an electrician, we actually have programs there to teach that and to partner with other people to be an apprentice. So that's something that we, and that this will help strengthen that as well.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any comments, any open discussion, questions or comments?
Yes.
Good evening. Michael Lee, 123 West Sylvan Avenue, Morton, Pennsylvania. I'd like to respond to two comments that residents made at last week's meeting. We had one resident was reading from a Daily Times, asking if he saw the Daily Times, and he went into detail about the problems of the fire department and also with volunteering. I don't know what edition of the Daily Times he had, but it certainly wasn't the edition for February 5th, 2020. I have it here in my hand right now. Before I leave, I'll leave it with Mr. Poole, so any member of the council can go through it at your leisure, and you will see in the paper nothing was mentioned about the fire department, nothing was mentioned about the tax breaks for firefighters, and nothing about volunteerism. And I got the impression that he kind of expected the council to pass a measure making it mandatory to volunteer, which if anything like that passed, I know it would be challenged in the court. So the next time a resident, expresses outrage and asks us if you've seen the Daily Times, ask that person for the date of that paper, because it may very well not be a current issue. The other thing I want to mention is there were 2 residents here who were complaining about taxes and want their taxes to go down. Well, I'm 5'9". I like to be another foot taller. I'm not going to get what I want. They're not going to get what they want. And the sooner as Landers would say, if they wake up and smell the coffee, the happier they'll be. But also too, in regards to the taxes, as we all know, the bills are starting to go out now. Certain properties are going to be reassessed, more likely at a higher value, and that isn't because of the borough council or any school district. It was an issue of it was issued by a Delaware County Common Pleas Court Judge Charles Burr back in March of 2017. So you've got Judge Burr to thank for the reassessment, not the new members of the council, and not your borough council members or your school board directors or anybody else for that matter. And as regards to reassessment, I'm going to paraphrase an old Jerry Reed song, which was titled, "She Got the Gold Mine, I Got the Shaft." The only thing this reassessment is going to do is that the rich are going to get the gold mine, the rest of us are going to get vomit. There's no other way that I can put it. Now, and also too, just one other thing. Now, the residents, I would have had more respect for them if they came out and just said that they don't want to pay taxes. I don't believe for one single second that they're worried about, because one guy went on and shed crocodile tears. Oh, the poor seniors, they're going to be homeless. I don't think he cares if any senior goes homeless or not. He's worried about himself, which is understandable, but I would have more honest for him. I would have more respect for these people if you just come out and say that you don't want to pay taxes. So I don't want to lose my train of thought. And also, before I forget, next Wednesday evening, say February the 19th, at the Government Center Building in Media, starting at 6 p.m., the County Council will have a meeting there for anyone who wants to attend. And if you do, the entrance to the meeting is on the side of the courthouse. And if you're not sure, if it may be I'm not making myself clear, you can always call one of the offices of any member of the council, and I'm sure they'll be able to give you the details of when it will be and where to go. So that's all I have to say. That's all I have to say for tonight. So thank you all for listening. Good night. May God bless all of you.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. The evening entrance to the courthouse is on Orange Street there by the Springfield building, just north of Front Street. It's probably where you come in after hours. And as far as the newspaper article the gentleman had I believe it was from the one, we were the first municipality to pass the law for the volunteers, and that was probably I think that was 2015. I think the newspaper article was probably from that long ago that he was showing. It was way back when. But nonetheless, thank you. Any other comments from anyone? Okay, I'd like to say that the borough offices will be closed on Monday in honor of President's Day.
Trash will be picked up.
There you go. Republic Services are scheduled to be picking up our trash. I'm going to tell all of council before you leave tonight to check your mailboxes, please. And I wish everyone a happy Valentine's Day. Whether you have, it's a day for lovers, but whether or not you have that specific person, there's always someone that loves you or you love them back, and maybe they have 2 legs or 4. But have a happy Valentine's Day.
Thank you.
And good night.
You're watching MoTV, Morton's very own TV station.